there is something which is known as population momentum. Population momentum, basically, in simple terms, it is that even though fertility rate has declined, a country has achieved a rate of 2 child per woman. That means the woman has replaced herself and her husband by 2 children. It's not necessarily that country is not going to grow. For the reason, depending on how many people are there who are, or especially how many women are there in the reproductive age group. So it takes quite a bit of time depending on what is the situation like, what is the age and sex distribution of that country. Even though they have achieved a very low level of fertility or low level of birth rate, the population could still keep on growing, And that's why the population momentum is very important. You have to look at what is the age and structure of the population and what is the sex structure, how many women are there in the reproductive age group. So both together. So first of all, age structure, it is known as an engine, that derives or retards the population growth. The more the people who are in the younger age group, in the middle age group rather, in the reproductive age group, if there are a lot of women there who are between ages 20 to 30, that population has potentials to grow much faster in the absence, particularly in the absence of family planning, provided everybody is doing family planning, like in China, 75% of women are practicing birth control, or in Iran, the same percentage, as against in Pakistan, where is a very low percentage, about 30%. So if there are a lot of women who are young, a lot of men also to marry them, So that means age is a very, very important factor in population growth, both because if there are too many young people, then they are producing too many children. And if there are too many young people, that means there are too few older people to die. So what happens that in a situation like young population, the birth rate is high and death rate is low. And if the population is old, the birth rate is low, death rate is high. So that's why it is known as crude. It's a very crude measure. So in a country like UK, the death rate is 12 per thousand population. Or in Russia, 15. Because there are too many older people. In Japan, it's also high. In Pakistan, the crude death rate is 8 per thousand. As a matter of fact, it has become 7 per thousand. That doesn't mean that answers your question. That doesn't mean that Pakistan has better health facilities and the fewer people are dying, because Pakistan has fewer people to die. There are not enough older people. Only 5% of Pakistan's population is above 60 years of age. And so that's why, and there are too many young people in Pakistan. 30% of Pakistan's population is 15 to 29 years of age. They are at the lowest risk of dying, but they are at the highest risk of producing children. Okay? And that's why these rates are very important. You have to take into account that what is the age structure like. Okay? And similarly, how many young people are there? Now this is the age structure of, this is known as age-sex pyramid. Okay, I'll talk more about it a little later. But it shows that most of the people you see, like they are in the red, especially on the right side. There is the population projected of China. That means that China is graying in the sense that becoming more than 50 years of age. You know, when you're 50, you are, you know, especially one is, if one is not coloring his hair, then they become white, right? First they are gray, then become white, okay? So, and in year 2000, China has a lot of people in the younger age group. But just look at those who are 30 and between 30 to 20 to 30, there are a lot of them, and that number is declining. So if they were not practicing family planning, as I said, that 75, almost 80% of women in China, they practice birth control. If they were not, or they were not using abortion, China would perhaps have a very, very high rate of growth. As against Pakistan. Pakistan has an age structure, a lot of young people. 1998 census, they are like about 43% of the population were below age 15, and a substantial proportion who are younger, and very few at the top. So it's not a growing population. And even in 2020, although because the birth rate is declining in Pakistan, but 29% would be younger, but still there would be a lot of people between ages 15 to 29. So that means that Pakistan's growth potential is very high because of simple reason that more babies, these young people are going to produce more babies, and there are not enough people to die there who are after age 60 or especially after 65. Okay. Now, after going through this, you must realize that data gathering is a very, very important, the most important thing in the study of demography. Okay, because knowledge of data gathering, how it is gathered, and at the top of it, it should be high quality, that you should be getting the perfect kind of information, and therefore it plays a very, very important role. How does where does demographic data come from? Population censuses, conducted almost every 10 years in most countries of the world, almost all countries of the world, and there are 3-4 exceptions: Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, Lebanon. I don't know why they are all Muslim majority countries, but also Nigeria, which is half Muslim. So the other one is vital registration, births and deaths certificates, which mean that those, if all the births are occurred at a facility, at a hospital, at a clinic, then you can have registration of births complete, or all the deaths are certified by a physician. There's a record of that. In that case, vital registration, again, that's in Europe. All the European countries, America, Canada, Malaysia, and Japan, Singapore, South Korea, they have vital registration system, and so they can tell you exactly how many people were born, how many babies were born, how many people died. Not only that, how they died, and who are the attendants and everything. In the absence of the two, you resort to sample surveys. You do your own sample surveys, the government do sample surveys. On the basis of correct sample drawn, you collect information, whatever you want to do. Okay, so from there, from census, you can get size and growth of the population, components of growth and vital rates from the registration system, and then the sample survey. In the absence of all those, especially those two, it provides, you can get estimate, as I showed you in Pakistan's case, from sample survey. So I will just skip that. I think it's, you can read it, and just because I think, as I promised, that I will finish by 1 o'clock. So, okay. I think I thought that perhaps it's a wrong one which has been, okay. I'll just show you the live birth certificate. This is taken from KMC records. This is what every birth which occurred at a facility should have information on name, place of birth, name of city, administrative unit, hospital or home, date and hour of birth, sex, whether it was a male or female, birth attendant, dai, midwife, LHV, nurse, doctor, mother's name and age, father's name and age. Okay? So that's the kind of certificate perhaps some of you issue when any babies were born here at the hospital. Now this certificate is supposed to be sent to KMC records, and they have hardly 20-25% births in Karachi are registered. In Pakistan, hardly 10% maybe, only in parts of urban areas. Now it has become a requirement to go to school. The schools are not going to admit anyone if they don't have birth certificate. So it's only for the people who are interested in going to school or whose parents are interested the kids go to school. At times they go 5 years later, they have birth certificate nikal den. If you go to KMC, they charge only 5 or 10 rupees. I remember because my child was born long time ago, 21 years ago, last one at Aga Khan, so I had to go to register and whatever. It cost me only 5 rupees. But I saw some people were there. I said, why? Because my child was, वो स्कूल में सर्टिफिकेट मांग रहे हैं, तो कैसे लेंगे? तो वो कह रहा था कि आप 500 रुपए दें तो हम निकाल देंगे आपको बैक डेट से KMC में. So there's a difference. 5 rupees or 500 rupees. Okay. So, but a lot of people don't go because they think it's not needed, especially if the child was born at home. But even a dai can put some sort of signature or stamp that I delivered this baby. Somebody else can